Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine it's 50 degrees, minus 50 Celsius, blizzards and snowstorms. You're carrying about 55 pounds on your back, pulling another 65 pounds behind you tied to a sledge, going uphill on ice. You haven't been in contact with the world for about 3 weeks or to 25 days. No shower, no change of clothes, no appetite. Yet you go through all these challenges, these hardships. But you choose to do this. So good afternoon once again, and let me take you through this journey. I think I've been put in here as the icebreaker, literally. Let me tell you how it all started, how it all began. This was something that I started off with my father. My father is the one who instilled this interest in me. He used to take me when I was little, and we used to go climb all the mountains back at home in Sri Lanka. We don't have mountains that are very high, but we still did it, and that's where the interest began. And then, of course, I started going out. I explored a little bit further, started traveling outside, and taking on challenges that really challenged me further. And that's how I started climbing the mountains and doing what I did. But, you know, to take you through all this, to make you who you are, sometimes there are different situations in life that we face, and we go through crossroads where we have to make certain decisions, and it makes you a different person. And I, myself, went through so many situations in life which changed my life, gave me a new perspective to life, and made me look at life and the world in a different way. And I'll just take you through some of those. Once in 1997, I met with a really bad accident, a car accident. They had given me 24 hours to live. My head was opened out, my face broke into 8 pieces. They had to restructure my entire face. And that gave me a new lease of life. And that gave me a new perspective. I started looking at things differently. And I thought I must make use of every opportunity that I get in life. And I started grabbing hold of them and moving forward. And then, of course, in 2005, there was another really bad flood in Mumbai. I happened to be there for a workshop. And I got caught in the flood. I spent the whole night hanging on a bridge, fighting a current with water right up to my neck. Yeah, but I got through that as well. And I thought that was my last at that moment. It was one of those moments where you come to the end. But I got through that. And then again, in 2012, I climbed my first ice mountain, Island Peak, which is in the Himalayas. And there, we got caught to a storm in the final ascent of the climb. And I almost lost my life there. I was bleeding internally. I was throwing out blood. And I remember turning to my guides and telling them, leave me here. I'm done. Yeah? But it was nothing short of a miracle that actually brought me down. There were 3 rescuers who came and got us, and we moved it, and we made it back down. So that's the experience that I have had, and that's what has made me take on these challenges in life and to keep moving forward. One would wonder why, but it is something that you do. Yeah. And then, of course, in 2016, for the first time, as 2 Sri Lankans, me and my colleague, Jayanti Kurutumpala, who took on the challenge of climbing Mount Everest. Nobody had ever done it before from Sri Lanka. And it was a real challenge for us. How do we do this? Is it possible for us to do this? We come from an island, from sea level. Is it really possible to take this challenge on and go there? But we had to gather a lot of information, and finally, we did it. We went up there, and I was faced with a slightly different situation because it's a 2-month-long journey. You get right to the top, get right to the summit, and then I was told, 400 meters before the summit, I was told I have to turn back. And my initial instinct was, I won't. Because I had put in too much. I had put in too much effort into this. Too much had gone into this. Financially, everything else. And I realized they had told us that there was a chance that you might not return. There's a 50% chance. So I was willing to take that chance. And eventually, I had to make the decision, the call. Do I go? Do I be a hero? Or do I turn back? And I made the call to turn back because I thought life was more important. and I think I chose right. So I made the call, I turned around and came back devastated, completely devastated. But anyway, it was a decision I had to make. This picture is really significant for me because this is where I had to turn back. So you can imagine how hard it was to make that decision, right, to actually come back. It wasn't a fault of mine. Physically, there was nothing wrong with me. My guide, my Sherpa, had made a terrible mistake. He had put a wrong tank on me. Yeah, so I had no oxygen to go up and come down, and I had to make the call. So I did make the call, and I came back. But when I came back, the first question that was asked, there were people at the airport, there was all the reception to welcome us back as the first two Sri Lankans, and the question asked was, will you go back? And my answer was never. Because I saw how hard it was, I realized how hard it was. I saw people dying in front of me. I saw dead bodies. I had to scale over dead bodies and get to the summit. And I thought, never again. But then this urge keeps coming back to you. And I decided I had to go and finish what I started. So I went back in 2018, and of course, on the 22nd of May, I was able to stand on top of the world. And that. So it is that sheer determination that I had within me to keep going, to push forward, and to finally make it. And it was an amazing moment for me to actually stand up there. Of course, immediately after that, what next? I've climbed the highest mountain. What do you do after that? I took on the challenge of doing the 7 summits. I'll quickly go through the 7 summits. Africa is Mount Kilimanjaro, Asia is Mount Everest, Australia is Mount Kosciuszko, North America is Mount Denali, Europe is Mount Elbrus, which is in Russia, Antarctica is Mount Vinson Massif, and South America is Mount Aconcagua. So I've climbed all these mountains now, but I have 2 more that are remaining. One is, of course, the North American mountain, which is Mount Denali. I've been there twice before, but unfortunately, weather didn't permit me to go up. I had to make the call and turn back. So I've fallen into the same situation, the same pattern once again. And right after this conference, I'll be heading off straight to Denali to take on the challenge once more and complete that. And of course, Mount Aconcagua will be at the end of this year, which I hope I will be able to accomplish and conquer that mountain as well. So you keep pushing on. You keep pushing on. You take on the challenge, and you keep moving on. Sometimes you fail. Sometimes, there are decisions you have to make. And you keep pushing on, you keep going back and achieving that. Yeah? The strength that you have within you. It's something that ignites from within you to keep going. And I think we all have that as human beings. Of course, we have different challenges as we climb these mountains, and the challenges of this is, of course, altitude to begin with. This, you can, when you talk of altitude, it's the weather, of course, right? The minus temperatures that I told you about, the conditions that we face. And every morning, when we come outside, you're completely covered. This is my tent in Everest, but on Mount Denali, it's a lot worse than this. Yeah, you would get completely weathered out, and then you have to come out early morning, shovel out all the snow so that your tent doesn't get covered, and then move on from there, and so on and so forth. And travel logistics, as always, how do you get there? What do you do? What do you have to take? All that with you. This is a very significant picture for me because one of the questions I had was, how do we get to Antarctica? This is Antarctica. And what fascinated me the most about this whole journey was how a Boeing 757 lands on ice there. Yeah, it was a huge puzzle for me. And that was, as soon as we had our little forum, I put my hand up and said, how do you stop the plane? Yeah, you're landing on blue ice. Yeah, but of course, there are ways of doing it. And you get there, and for me, getting to Antarctica was the closest to being on another planet. It is really like being on another planet, and that blew me away completely. So, and of course, the mental preparation that you go through, yeah, how do you mentally prepare yourself? And I always say that all these journeys that I go on, the challenges that I take on, would be about 40% physical, but actually it's about 60% mental. It's your mental strength that keeps you going. You've got to be mentally strong to keep going. And that's what has got me to the top. Going through the ice crevices, you know that you can fall in, you can end your life just like that. So you've got to be mentally really prepared and be able to move forward. And of course, the physical hazards. You do everything to physically prepare yourself. I'm sure all of you, for everything that you do, you physically prepare yourself. Yeah, but there's so much that you can do. We will physically prepare ourselves and do everything to mitigate the risks that we can control. But what about those that we can't control? Yeah, there are certain things that you can't. Nature is something that you can't come in force with. Yeah, you have to accept what is given to you. That's why I had to turn back twice at Mount Denali and at Mount Aconcagua. So you have to accept that, and you have to move with that. If not, it would have been the end of the journey for me. Yeah, so how do we move forward? And it is that, once again, it is that strength, the resilience, and the determination that keeps you going to go back and forth and to finally achieve your goal. A question that has been always asked is, how do you work, how do you balance out the work, and how do you do what you do? Because I have a job as well. I'm afraid it's nothing to do with IT, of course. I'm completely oblivious to that. But I am a hairdresser by profession and a stylist. So I have to balance my work out as well. And one of the things I always say when I'm asked this question is, do not make excuses. We as human beings all the time feel that we make excuses for everything. But I don't make excuses. I try not to make excuses. Yeah, and that is what has got me to where I am, I think, and has pushed me forward. So whatever it may be, I make sure that I'm there out in the morning. I start my day at 4:30 in the morning, training, and go through this whole process, go to work, yeah, and carry on with my day. But if I make an excuse, I know that I am the one, at the end of the day, who would have to pay the price for it. Yeah, so I know what it is, I keep my focus, and I try to move forward as much as I can. Of course, I'd like to end off with this quote, which is by Sir Edmund Hillary, who was the first man to climb Everest, along with his Sherpa Tenzing Norgay. He said something very profound that really resonates with what I believe in. It is not the mountain that you conquer, but yourself. And that is so true with everything that we do, with the challenges that we take on. Sometimes we have no control, like I mentioned earlier. There are things that you can control. But what you can do is you can conquer yourself. You can conquer your fears. You can conquer the strengths within you. And you can finally reach your victorious goal. So thank you once again. I would like to wish you all the strength, determination, and courage that I had to climb my own mountain as you climb your own mountain in life. Thank you.